One of the best golfers in the history of the game was Samuel Jackson Snead from Virginia. And he had one of the best golf swings that has ever been used. Very simple, and he valued the simplicity. So did a generation later, Jack Nicklaus, and both he and one of the other best golfers in the world, Gary Player from South Africa, agreed that he probably had about as good a swing as anybody on the planet. Now, he, in his book, How to Play Golf from 1946, had photographs, and you've heard me talk about my use of photographs over the years. My mother learned from looking at Mickey Wright's book, and I've always had the reservation regarding quite its efficacy because obviously it's a snapshot, but doesn't necessarily show the dynamics. But in the case particularly of his swing in that book, there's one sequence of photos that I find enormously helpful, particularly because of the popularized notion over the years of swinging what they call in to out. In to out is where you intend to have the club approach the ball from this side of the target line, hit the ball and travel to the other side of the target line. Now, I've never thought that that was the right way to attack a golf ball. And this sequence of photos that you see of Sam Snead's, you can see him firing toward the camera. It's an unusual thing in golf books. You don't see that angle, and I found it very helpful, particularly for this reason. As you saw him swing back, you'll see that the head of the club is farther behind him at the same height on the backswing, and a full shoulder turn already halfway back, than comparative to the downswing, where the body, when the club gets to the same height on the downswing, the body is almost back to the impact position and the club is farther forward, meaning that the downswing is more outside of the backswing arc. And I think that's actually what most of the modern technology demonstrates with good golfers. Now, that's not completely true anymore, because a lot of golfers are now doing a much more elaborate extension of the club on the takeaway. And as a consequence, they have to resolve that and bring the club now more in to out. And so the modern champion is a good example of what has been advocated for probably 120 years.
I think that the benefit that the modern players derive from this very wide takeaway straight down the target line is that it forces the right shoulder back early in the backswing and to a great degree maximizing its potential as a spring. And what do I mean by that? Taking the club back in that fashion is what I would call outside of where it's going to need to be to attack the ball. Interesting that into out now looks like a good idea, even though I've spent a lifetime avoiding using that. Now, here's why. When you get to the end of the swing, and the perfect example of this is, of course, the US Open champion, Bryson DeChambeau. He takes it very wide, and this shoulder gets pushed back enormously. And if you look at this picture of Sam Snead, you'll notice that at the end of the backswing, the cleft between his shoulder blades, and this lovely perspective that he gives in the book allows us to see it, is actually folded so that there's a valley between the shoulder blades. The right shoulder has actually been pushed back toward the other one. Behind you, and that's stretching all of these enormous muscles here in the front of the chest and putting the right arm and shoulder and the chest into this very, what I call a leaf spring-like shape. Now, obviously, we don't want to use all of that power on the downswing. We want to keep it. And so a lot of talk in golf instruction is about how it feels in the first half of the downswing, that things are just sinking down, but not by any means attacking. And they're completely correct. So having tensed up this spring, it's held all the way through the downswing and only then released as the champion goes through the ball. I think that's a source of great power. But when you get to the end of the backswing, and this is being tensed up into that spring shape, one of the features on the downswing, and of course Jack Nicklaus rightly described that all champions are in the same position as they come to the ball. They all have the right elbow underneath the left one. and the right shoulder lower. And so that has to be achieved, with these modern takeaways, it's going to have to be achieved on the downswing. And so they reshape into the proper attacking shape and then maintain it and then release. And that's why into out now makes sense.